Welcome back to Smile and Scars, the channel where real lessons are told through stories that grip your heart and test your strength. If you're new here, make sure to stick around till the end because what you're about to hear will shock you, anger you, and inspire you all at once. It all began on an ordinary sunny afternoon in a quiet suburban neighborhood. The streets were lined with tall trees, children played with bicycles, and the hum of life seemed calm and safe. Among those children was a young girl named Emily Seagal, only 15 years old, with soft features, long brown hair, and the kind of shy smile that made people feel at ease around her. She was walking home from school carrying her books in her arms, unaware of the storm that was about to hit her life. Emily had always been known as the quiet one in her class. She was gentle, respectful, and avoided unnecessary conflicts. Few knew that she was the daughter of Steven Seagal, the martial arts legend, Hollywood icon, and a man who had stood against injustice his whole life. Emily never boasted about her father. She wanted to live her own simple life. But fate was cruel that day. As Emily crossed the street near the park, two police officers were standing by their patrol car. One of them was Officer Daniels, a tall man in his 40s with a hardened face, a reputation for arrogance, and worse, an ugly streak of racism. Daniels had been reported before for his behavior toward minority families, but every complaint vanished inside the police department's system, covered up by his connections. When Emily accidentally dropped one of her books near the patrol car, she bent down to pick it up. Daniels noticed her, and, for reasons that made sense only to his twisted ego, he smirked and muttered to his partner, "Watch this. I'll show you how we deal with these kids." Emily looked up, confused, and politely said, "Excuse me, sir, I just need to grab my book." But Daniels stepped forward, towering over her. "What are you doing around here? Don't you know this isn't your side of town?" Emily frowned. "I live just 2 blocks away." Daniels sneered. His partner shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Daniels grabbed Emily's wrist harshly. "Don't talk back to me, girl. When I ask a question, you answer with respect." Emily tried to pull away, panic rising in her chest. "Please let go. You're hurting me." But Daniels only squeezed harder. The cruel glint in his eyes showed he wasn't just doing his job. He was enjoying his power. And then, without any warning, he twisted her arm backward. The crack was loud, sickening. Emily screamed in agony and collapsed onto the ground, clutching her arm. Pedestrians nearby gasped. Some pulled out their phones to record. A woman shouted, "What are you doing? She's just a child." Daniels, unfazed, barked, "Stay out of this." She resisted arrest. But everyone knew there was no arrest, no reason, no justification. Just brutality. Emily sobbed on the pavement, her arm bent unnaturally. What Daniels didn't know, what none of the bystanders knew, was that standing just across the street, blending in among the crowd, was Steven Seagal himself. Steven had returned from filming overseas only a week earlier. He was spending time with his daughter quietly, keeping a low profile. That day, he had decided to let Emily walk home on her own, wanting her to enjoy her independence. But as fate would have it, he had walked the same route behind her, far enough to give her space, close enough to ensure her safety. And when he saw Daniels break his daughter's arm, something inside him, something primal, something unstoppable ignited. His eyes narrowed, his breathing slowed, and every instinct from decades of martial arts mastery surged to the surface. Steven didn't rush. He didn't scream. He walked forward with the slow, deliberate steps of a man who knew exactly what he was about to do. The crowd began whispering as they recognized him. "That's Steven Seagal." Daniels looked up, irritated by the attention, and sneered again. "What, you people think some movie star scares me?" He had no idea that Steven wasn't just a movie star. He was a 7th Dan black belt in Aikido, a man who had trained law enforcement officers across the world, a man who lived by discipline, but knew how to unleash devastating force when injustice called for it. Steven finally reached his daughter's side. He knelt beside Emily, his large hands gentle as he brushed her hair from her tear-stained face. "It's okay, baby girl, I'm here now." Emily's pain-stricken eyes widened with relief. "Dad," she whispered. Steven slowly stood, towering over Daniels, who suddenly felt the weight of his own arrogance pressing down on him. For the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. Steven's voice was calm but thunderous in its control. "You broke my daughter's arm." Daniels scoffed, trying to cover his fear with mockery. She resisted. "I was doing my job." Steven tilted his head slightly, his eyes locked onto Daniels like a predator locking onto prey. "Your job is to protect, not to brutalize children, not to feed your hate." The tension was unbearable. The crowd had fallen completely silent, every eye fixed on the confrontation. Even Daniels' partner muttered, "Daniels, maybe we should just back off." But Daniels' pride refused to let him retreat. He pointed at Steven's chest, shoving a finger into him. "What are you gonna do about it, old man?" The crowd gasped. Some even stepped back, as though anticipating an explosion. And in that moment, Steven Seagal decided Daniels was about to learn a lesson that would be remembered forever. But how he delivered that lesson, swift, brutal, and with the precision of a lifetime of discipline, is where this story is about to take you next. Daniel's mocking words still hung in the air when Steven Seagal finally straightened to his full height. His calm eyes bore into the arrogant cop, and though his voice was soft, every word carried the weight of thunder. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Daniels laughed, a short, hollow laugh meant to mask the unease crawling up his spine. "Big talk for a washed-up actor. You think these people are going to save you? I'm the law here." He adjusted his belt, his hand brushing the holster as if daring Steven to react. The crowd held its breath. Everyone had seen what Daniels had done to Emily, and their phones were already recording. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore, it was a reckoning. Steven stepped forward, his boots clicking on the asphalt with a rhythm that echoed like war drums. "You're not the law," he said firmly. "You're a disgrace to it." Daniels shoved Steven in the chest, a move that sealed his fate. In one fluid motion, faster than anyone could track, Steven's hand shot up, seizing Daniels' wrist. The crack of bone echoed through the street as Steven twisted, forcing the cop to his knees with a scream. Gasps and shouts erupted from the bystanders. Phones zoomed in closer. Steven's movements were controlled, precise, the kind of control born from decades of martial discipline. Daniels tried to lash out with his other hand, but Steven intercepted it, flipping him onto the ground with effortless strength. Daniels hit the pavement with a thud, his breath knocked out of him. His partner stood frozen, torn between loyalty and the truth playing out in front of his eyes. "You want to hurt children?" Steven's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Try hurting someone who can fight back." Daniels struggled to rise, fury in his eyes. He drew his baton, swinging wildly. Steven sidestepped, his movements smooth as water, and with a swift motion, disarmed him. The baton clattered across the pavement. Steven spun the weapon in his hand once before tossing it aside. He didn't need weapons, he was the weapon. The cop lunged again, reckless and desperate. Steven's palm shot forward, striking Daniels in the chest with such force that he staggered backward, gasping for air. Steven grabbed him by the collar, lifted him effortlessly, and slammed him against the patrol car. Daniel's face twisted from arrogance to terror. Sweat poured down his forehead. For the first time, he realized he was standing against a man who was more than a legend, he was a storm incarnate. "You broke her arm." Steven growled, leaning closer, his voice low enough that only Daniels could hear. "Now the world will see who you are." The crowd roared in agreement. Someone shouted, "Teach him a lesson, Steven." Others yelled, "Justice, justice." Steven let Daniels drop to the ground, his body trembling. He could have finished him right then, but Steven Seagal was never about mindless brutality. His lessons were always sharper than his fists. He turned to Daniel's partner, who stood pale and shaken. "You saw what he did," Steven said firmly. "You know this isn't justice. You swore an oath. Will you uphold it, or will you stay silent?" The younger officer's lips trembled. His eyes darted from Daniels, groaning on the ground, to the girl clutching her broken arm, and then to Steven's piercing gaze. Finally, with a deep breath, he pulled out his radio. "This is Officer Harris. I need immediate backup. Officer Daniels has assaulted a minor, civilian injured, requesting medical assistance." His voice cracked but carried determination. The crowd erupted in applause. Daniel's eyes widened. "What are you doing? Don't you dare!" He barked, but his words were weak now. "You brought this on yourself," Harris replied. Sirens wailed in the distance. More patrol cars began arriving, their red and blue lights flashing across the darkening sky. Officers poured out, confused by the scene in front of them. A girl crying in pain, Daniels battered and humiliated, and Steven Seagal standing tall in the middle of it all. A senior officer approached. "What the hell happened here?" Dozens of voices shouted at once. "He broke her arm. He attacked her for no reason. It's all on video." The officers looked at Steven. He spoke calmly. "This man brutalized my daughter. He broke her arm because of his own hate. The people saw it. The cameras saw it. There is no hiding from this." Emily whimpered softly, clutching her injured arm. Steven rushed back to her side, his fury melting into tenderness as he knelt. "Stay strong, baby girl. Help is coming." He kissed her forehead gently, and the crowd's heart collectively softened at the sight of the giant martial artist being the most gentle father. Paramedics arrived and carefully lifted Emily onto a stretcher. Steven held her hand until the last possible moment before she was placed into the ambulance. His eyes promised her that justice was already in motion. Back at the patrol car, Daniels tried to stand, but Steven stepped forward again, not to strike him, but to deliver words sharper than any blow. "You thought your badge gave you power. You thought your hate made you strong. But today, the world saw the truth. You're nothing but a coward who picks on children." The senior officer gestured, and 2 officers moved in. To everyone's shock, Daniels was handcuffed right there, his rights read aloud. The crowd erupted in cheers, their faith in justice flickering back to life. Daniels screamed, "You can't do this to me. I'm one of you." But Steven's calm voice silenced him. "You were never one of them. A true officer protects. You disgraced the uniform." The squad car door slammed shut, locking Daniels inside. His once cocky eyes now stared out in defeat, burning with humiliation. Steven turned to the crowd. "Remember this moment," he said. "Justice doesn't come from power or fear. It comes from standing up when no one else will record it, share it. Never let people like him hide in the shadows again." Phones lifted higher. Cheers echoed through the streets. The story had already gone viral before Steven even finished speaking. Later that night, in the hospital, Emily rested with her arm in a cast. Steven sat beside her, holding her hand. "Dad," she whispered, "you didn't have to fight him like that. You could have gotten in trouble." Steven smiled faintly. "There are moments in life, Emily, when trouble is worth it, when silence is the real crime. I won't ever be silent when it comes to you." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'm proud of you, Dad." He kissed her forehead again, his heart heavy yet relieved. News outlets exploded with the story. Headlines read, "Cop assaults teen stopped by Steven Seagal," and "Brutality exposed on camera." Daniels was suspended indefinitely, facing charges for child abuse and misconduct. His career was over, his reputation shattered, and Steven Seagal, he didn't care about headlines. He cared only about the lesson, a lesson carved into the world that night. Arrogance, hate, and abuse of power will always be destroyed by truth, discipline, and justice. The quiet neighborhood that had witnessed cruelty turned into the stage for one of the most powerful lessons of the decade. Parents hugged their children tighter, neighbors looked out for one another, and officers in that department were reminded that the badge was not a weapon of hate, but a shield of protection. Steven Seagal walked out of the hospital into the night, his long coat trailing behind him. The crowd outside clapped as he appeared, a symbol of strength, justice, and the fierce love of a father. And deep inside, Steven knew one thing: the world may forget the movies he made, but they would never forget the night a racist cop broke the wrong child's arm and learned that justice can wear many faces, including that of a father willing to fight for his daughter.